this spherical image. And the way we're going to do that is with a program called HDR Shop. And if you go to version 1, this version is free, so you just fill out your details and you can download that for free. So in HDR Shop, let's just drag in our images, and can zoom out by Control minus. And what we want to do is just go Image, Panorama, Panoramic Transformations, and it is a mirrored ball. That's our source image, but we want to make it latitude, longitude, which is a rectangle, and we want the exact same dimensions. We hit OK. It's going to unwrap it like this, so we can see we have the image in a rectangle now. It's quite a lot of distortion at the edges, so that's why we had overlap. So we could just use the middle portions of each image and blend them where the edges are distorted. And once you've unwrapped it, you can just go to File, Save As, and save it back as a Radiance format. And let's just repeat the process for the rest. Back in Photoshop, I just want to drag the first one in, and we need to make the canvas larger so that we can fit the rest. So canvas, let's go pixels and make the width maybe 3000, maybe a bit larger, 4500, so we can try and fit the rest in. And having a yellow background is fine. We don't need to see, we won't be seeing the background, so having a colored background is sort of helpful so that you know if there's any semi-transparent areas, you'll see the color below and be able to fix that. So let's just double click on this to unlock it, and we're going to drag the second one in here, and you can see that we have some similar points between the two that we can line up. So we can see the shed is the same in both of these. There'll be quite a lot of overlap because we shot 4 instead of 3, so we have more overlap and we'll have less distortion. So I'm just lining it up like that. Something to be aware of is the horizon line. We can see that it's sort of not really lining up, it's being distorted in the edges. If I turn this one off and on, we sort of want to make it so that the ground planes line up. So what we can do to fix that is do a warp, edit, transform, let's do a warp, sort of just want to bring them down in Y. Something like that to fix that up. This one looks like it's sort of being warped, so I'll just sort of fix that before. And that's that one. Let's add in a third. Sort of line it up. And this one has the shed as well. Which sort of features somewhere around here. Set this to 50%. Okay, so we can see that it sort of needs to be a little higher to line up, but other parts of the image need to be lower, such as this fence here, to line up. So we sort of need to do a balancing act between different parts of the image that need to be sort of different heights. So I'll set this one to 100 and we'll just line this one up. So we can see that this part needs to be down here, but the shed needs to be higher, so we can put it back where it needs to be and then warp it into place. Edit, transform, warp, and these need to be lower. That needs to be about there. This one needs to come up a little bit higher. These ones need to go in a bit. And the ground sort of needs to come down just a little. Okay, something like that. And I'll set this one to 100%. And now the last image, 4. This one has the shed on both sides, so we could either align it. Let's see where we're going to align this one. We could align it here with this shed, and that's what I'll do. Again, this one is going to have to be warped to fit. So I'll start with the fence, then do the shed. It's sort of aligning up there, and the ground plane is sort of distorted a bit. We won't really worry about the extreme edges, they're going to pinch regardless. And come over here and try and align this palm up. And then I'll sort of just make it a bit more even. So that's fairly well aligned. Now let's sort of stitch these together a bit better. Let's start with these two. We just want the middle section of each because the edges are distorted. So I'll grab this and the eraser tool. You can either erase with the eraser or the marquee and just rasterize the layer so I can edit it. Draw up the size of my brush by Alt right click, and I want the hardness set to about 0. If I turn this off and on, you can sort of see I want this section on this image because it's the least distorted parts, this middle bit here. But what I don't want is, well, on this image I sort of want the same thing except along a little further, so I don't want the edges here. So I'll paint them out, and you can sort of paint out whichever areas you'd like. I'll sort of do something like that, so now they're stitched together. If we just go back in the history a few brush strokes back, it's quite laggy in this 32-bit mode. We can see that I shouldn't have really done that because that's the reflection. Even if this is the edge of the second layer and is quite distorted, it would be best to not have myself in here. I'm not going to, I'm not going to have, well, I don't want 4 versions of myself in the various images. That would look odd. In fact, I want 0. So they're fairly well stitched together. There's a little bit of distortion here. I think that's actually the seam on this layer here. Could erase if you like. I think it looks fine. Probably going to do more harm than good considering this is sort of the, oh no, it's not too distorted over here. I might actually do that. Okay, although we are introducing a bit more of this metal flare here. Yeah, I think I'd prefer it the way it was. Let's just leave that there. So number 3 comes along, and its best areas are from probably here to here. We do want to get rid of the myself here. So just a large feathered brush stroke to get rid of myself. And let's dial this up, trying, we can see we're doubling up here with the shadow. Either way, let me just see. Yeah, we have to deal with the shadow there. Let's see which, sort of like the clouds, so I'll have that one there. And there's a bit richer image here. Now, this bit here we might actually have to clone out. I'll try and get rid of as much of it as I can by revealing this below layer here. And that's looking pretty nice. Let's grab the 4th one. Turns opacity up to 100. Rasterize. And this one has a major flare. So I think the bits of this image that I'll use are just this area here. So I'll scratch this out. Like that. And I'll just be using that part of the image. now we can see that we have two suns. It's kind of like the Tatooine, or is that two moons? I'm not sure. So we've got two suns on the two sails here. So what we want to do is blend those two together. And how we can do that is, actually I just see there's a little gap here. I'd like to come down and fill that in. There you go. Okay, so yes, let's crop it where these two suns meet. So I'll have maybe distortion wise, they're both sort of in the middle of images, so they don't have too much distortion. On this fourth image here, we're sort of getting distortion once we go past here, so I'll actually crop it halfway where I think the seam should be. Something like this. And then if we, what we need to do is sort of offset this in X so that we can work on the seam. But the problem is we can't really do that with 4 individual layers. And if we merge these together, it's going to destroy them. So what I'd like to do is put them in a folder, so a group, and this can be called backup. And then if we just duplicate this group here, call this merge, we now have 2 groups, and these ones here I'm just going to merge together. And then if we ever need the backups, we have all of these separated. And I want to go filter, other, offset. I just want to offset it in the horizontal. And we can see that we have the seam here. So now we can work on the seam. I think the first image might be best to work on the seam. If I set this to 50% opacity, oops, I can sort of line it up where it should be, and set it to maybe 100% opacity and turn it on and off to see what's going on here. Maybe image 2 might have been best for this. Let's just see. No, there's too much distortion. Okay, so if we turn that one off, we can see that we sort of need this horizon line is too high. So we can fix that up with a warp. I'll move that down there. Okay, so we sort of have that. Now I'll just deselect the layer to see. That looks pretty good, so now I'll grab my large eraser tool and sort of erase what I don't need. I think I went a bit too far there. I can see here that I have some sort of information that is sort of covering up the shadow, which is handy, so I'll use that. And I'll just remove what I need to. Oops, we're getting a seam there. So just be careful. If we erase too much, we can see the join. So I'll scale this down a little. There's actually a discrepancy in the luminance values of some of these layers, but that's looking pretty good. We're getting our seam fixed up here. So now let's address the shadow here. If we go, well, if we merge these two together, again that's destructive, so have to make sure that you're happy with it. We can go edit, sorry, filter, offset, and set it back to 0. Oops. Set to something like this, and now we have another great seam. It seems that I got part of the image that I didn't want, so I'm just going to go back to offset and crop the image, and then go filter, other, offset, and there we go. So now I sort of need to clone that out. Where's the clone stamp tool? Get a large soft brush and start cloning away.